Hey, what's up guys, back with another video going over UFC 252, which is Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title of the world, which also comes along with that title of baddest man on the planet. Over this video, it's going to be going down over my fight predictions, what to expect, and so yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start off a little bit out of order. Since the fight that was originally scheduled to kick us off for the main card to UFC 252 actually got canceled due to one of the fighters testing positive for COVID-19. So this fight actually got moved up from the prelims, and it features Daniel Pineda versus Herbert Burns. So Herbert Burns is the brother to welterweight title contender Gilbert Burns, and he's on a 5-fight win streak. This fight is taking place at 145 lightweight, and he's going against who he says is one of his toughest opponents yet, and that's Daniel Pineda. So Herbert Burns is a multi-champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he has a number of submissions in his arsenal. He mixes it up. He also has one TKO victory in his past 5 fights as well. And on the other side, we have Daniel Pineda, who is an experienced fighter. He's fought in many different organizations. He actually just got re-signed to the UFC in June, so he's really trying to solidify his place here. He's also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So my quick take on this one, I'm going to have to give it to Herbert Burns. I see him causing more problems for Pineda standing up as well as on the mat. And Burns says that Pineda is going to be a tougher opponent than Alexander Volkanovski, who was the championship of that division right now. So I'm expecting him to be cautious. I'm also thinking that the return to the UFC may be hard for Pineda to settle into this fight. Next, the fight that will actually kick off the main card is going to be John Dodson versus Merab Dvalishvili. I'm guessing that's how you say his name, forgive me. But this fight's going to be a bantamweight. John Dodson coming off a KO win back in February. You know, he has good hands, prefers to fight close to the cage. He has really good angles, utilizes them very well. He also had a lot of experience facing hard opponents such as Peter Yan, the current champion of that division, as well as Demetrius Johnson twice. And on the other side, we have Merab, and this dude engages explosively. He throws first and he throws hard. He has some strong takedowns. He punches his way out of submissions, and he's coming off a 4-fight win streak. And he doesn't really mess with positions. He either wants you flat on your back to ground pound you, or your face facing the mat so you can't see those big shots coming in. So the winner between these two, I'm going to have to give it to Merab. I just don't see him giving John Dodson enough time to get settled in, to utilize those angles enough in the first place, and I just see him being explosive, ending it quick, and it seems like he has the hot hand right now. Next fight up, we have a heavyweight matchup, which is sure to bring some fireworks, sure to bring some highlights out. This is definitely not the fight you want to take a bathroom break during, and it's going to be Junior Dos Santos versus Jair Rozenstruik. So breaking down JDS, you know, he's a veteran in the UFC, notable fighter, recognizable name, and you've got to know everything he throws is coming to knock your head off. He's a great boxer, knows where to put his power at, definitely catches people in combos all the time. You can take a look at his highlight reel. Also, don't forget, he is experienced in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's coming off some losses between Curtis Blades and Francis Ngannou. So both of these guys have won against some big names and lost against some big names as well. And both of them are trying to shift the tides in their favor to get their way into a next title shot. Speaking of Francis Ngannou, he is also the last man that beat Rozenstruik in his last outing in 22nd KO. But Rozenstruik is a great kickboxer. He has a great snap jab, put some people down before. And we all remember him beating Alistair Overeem when he busted his lip into oblivion. But I will say, maybe it was the shock, maybe it was the adrenaline, but he didn't flatline Overeem. Overeem actually got up as soon as it happened. And we also can't forget that Rozenstruik was losing the majority of that fight, up until that very punch. So you know, both of these guys are teammates, both of them have really heavy hands. I honestly don't see this one making out of the first round. I honestly think it's going to depend on who can land that big first shot and make the most out of their combos. And that being said, I think it's going to have to go to Rozenstruik, just because I believe he's going to try to come back. We didn't really get to see what he had to show against Ngannou since it ended so quickly. I'm sure he wants to get back into the cage and make a statement to prove that he deserves a title shot in the near future. So next up, guys, we have another bantamweight fight. And believe me when I tell you, that division is heating up, consistently heating up. Contenders are popping up left and right. But for this one, we have Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. So O'Malley is coming off a win, which ended in one of the contenders for knockout of the year. And he's been going back and forth with Cody Garbrandt. He's looking very confident with his striking. He's not being afraid to throw kicks, high kicks. You know, if he falls, he has confidence he can get back up, get back to his feet. And he definitely has a lot to prove going into this fight, even though he's undefeated and his hype train is starting to heat up right now. And he's also coming off 2 back-to-back performance of the night wins, as well as 1 fight of the night win. But he definitely has his work cut out for him when it comes to Vera. Even though Vera lost his last outing in a controversial decision, before that he was actually on a 5-fight win streak. And you know, he's experienced. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he's a good kickboxer, he's comfortable fighting off his back, closes distance quick, and he's not afraid to take some shots either. So picking between these two, I'm gonna have to give it to Sugar Sean O'Malley. You know, he has a lot riding on this fight, especially in terms of respect he's trying to get on his name, especially when you're going back and forth with someone who's competing for a championship of that division now. You know, he has a lot to live up to. He set the standards high for himself. With Vera's fighting style is that he fights pretty linear, so whenever he's doing flying knees or switch kicks, they're all pretty much going straight down the line. And I don't think he'll be able to catch O'Malley unless he baits him in, because I think O'Malley does his best work whenever he's moving and making angles and creating opportunities for himself. Let's see if the hype's real. Every fight from here on out until you get to that championship fight is going to be like, is the hype real or not? Alright, finally, so main event time. So DC versus Stipe. A whole year later, they're back to finish out the trilogy. Who's going to be the baddest man on the planet? Who's going to leave with the heavyweight championship of the world? So some things before, they're going to be fighting at the Apex back in Las Vegas, which is going to be the smallest octagon these two have ever met in. And a lot of different factors are going to go into this fight. One thing I hope the ref watches out for is DC's eye pokes. That was a problem in both of the fights in the past. DC pretty much put his whole thumb in Stipe's eye at one point. As well as the weight cuts that these guys are going to be doing. Stipe in the first fight weighed in at 242 pounds and then came in and weighed in at 230 pounds for the second fight. DC in the first fight weighed in at 246 pounds and then in the second fight he came in at 236 pounds. And supposedly, according to his training camp media manager or whatever, is that he's going to come in weighing less than 240 pounds. So I expect to see him in that 236 pound range again. So DC had surgery on his back before the second fight and Stipe had a surgery on his eye after the second fight. As far as I know, they should all be 100% good to go. And so this is it for DC, supposedly. So he says. So he says after this fight, no matter what, he's walking away. No more John Jones fights, no more Brock Lesnar hyped fights that didn't happen. And this could be it for the guy. But there have been some rumors, I don't know from where, but that this may also be Stipe's last fight. Who knows? Stipe has gotten a lot of criticism for holding up the division in the midst of a pandemic. I don't think that's quite fair. He is a full-time firefighter. He always says that job comes first and he does fighting for the love of it. So breaking down the past two fights. So we know how the first fight ended. First round, Daniel got Stipe in the clinch, hit him with a right that came out of nowhere that Stipe didn't see coming, flattened him out. It was over quick and easy. Stipe admitted he got caught, instantly wanted a rematch. But we didn't really get to see how that fight would have progressed later on in the rounds. In the second fight, we really got to see what everybody wanted to see in the first place. It was a great battle between two heavyweight warriors. None of them held anything back. Stipe did well at trying to wear down Daniel's legs in the early rounds. DC did an excellent job at faking the takedowns, trying to get Stipe back in the clinch like he did in the first fight. And with faking the takedown, he was able to land the big shots as well as getting the takedowns going early. So the whole fight, DC was fighting like this, trying to keep his hands up, trying to keep his arms up. You know, these shots on the side were landing on the shoulders. The only thing he really had to worry about was anything coming down the middle, which he could see and divert as needed. And DC was actually winning the first two rounds of that fight. It wasn't until the third round that the tide started to shift. You could feel the momentum shift in that fight as well. After Stipe started going to the body, it limited Daniel to one punch movements. So he was punching, just trying to get out of the way before he got hit in the body again. You could tell that his body movement started to slow down. It really started to pile up. He even managed to take Daniel down in the third round. And once Stipe got DC to only doing one punch movements, it took the clinch away from Daniel, and eventually Stipe was able to finish him in the fourth round. So going into this third fight, I hope Stipe worked on his head movement. I think that Stipe took a lot of shots that didn't need to be taken. I know he needs to stay out of DC's clinch, going in and out of the clinch, be aware of the combos that DC's trying to throw the whole time. But for this one, I'm going to have to give it to the baddest man on the planet, the current champion, Stipe Miocic. I'm looking to see him finish Daniel. I don't see this one going the distance as well. Unfortunately, he's going to have to give DC a sour kick out the front door. But I expect Daniel to go out like a warrior. He's definitely going to try to bring this fight, take control of it early. So yeah, those are my predictions for UFC 252. If you have any comments or anything that you think I missed, any input that you want to give me, feel free to comment them down below. And as always, guys, you can catch me on my gamer tag at DeathTron325, and also follow my Twitter if you have the chance. I'll be live tweeting during the main card. Crazy things that caught my eye, crazy things have been going on. I'm sure we're going to get some highlight reel moments. Also at the end of this video, I'm going to leave some links for some pages that I follow on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, different platforms like that, as well as where to get one of these shirts at. Definitely go check out my friend Boss7. So be sure to give his page a follow. He's an up and coming streamer, very interactive with all of his followers when he's streaming, after he's streaming, always doing giveaways and stuff like that. So definitely check him out. And other than that, guys, I'll catch you in the next video.